Subscribe to our YouTube channel and don't forget to press the bell icon to get all the latest updates.
Jagjyot, because I met you when you were running from pillar to post trying to get justice for your mother. Your mother was admitted at a private hospital in Delhi. This was not the only hospital that ran short of oxygen. And since then, you are among the families who've been fighting for justice for her. Can you first tell us, where does that fight for justice stand? What happened with your mother and what's happened since then?
Okay, thanks, Barkha. Obviously, when we recall our time exactly 1 year back, we were just fighting for, first of all, the life for our mother. There was shortage of medicines and things like that. And but eventually, doing all our effort, we lost our mother to an incident which is not been reported yet. We lost our mother because of lack of oxygen in the hospital. Uh, After that, I think we tried our best to reach out to several authorities just to check and then just to get it recorded somewhere that she lost her life due to lack of oxygen instead of just calling it as a natural death. And today also, when I was just looking at the death certificate of my mother, it says like a natural death, not even a mention of a COVID on the death certificate. Forget about mentioning about lack of oxygen over there. And the fight for justice, it's still on from our side, but I know it's difficult to get justice in India. We all know about that, but we are still hopeful that somewhere someone will acknowledge or at least try to find out the real reason of death of all those who lost a life in a single night. Approximately 23 people just died in an ICU in a single night. How that could be possible, whether that was negligence or lack of oxygen. So,
and and and
yeah,
and and of course, I'm extremely sorry, and we all are, for your loss. And thank you for having even then the courage and the openness to come and share what you must be going through right now. Can I ask you, though, to be very clear, your mother was admitted for COVID in this hospital, correct?
correct.
And when she was released, and I would like to show everybody the death certificate that Jagjyot's mother that was given. This is the death certificate. And the manner of death, it says natural death, right? So it doesn't say COVID. It doesn't say oxygen shortage. It simply says manner of death, natural death. And in my opinion, this is a clear, very, very clear and visible example of how people fell through the cracks. So, Jagjyot, when you see this dispute over the WHO report on the one hand and the official tally on the other, people like your mother were not counted. We've demonstrated it. What would you like to say to those who believe that this is an attempt to slander India and so on?
So my advice will be, first of all, if someone has found something, even though that's a mathematical calculation, let's acknowledge that. Let's try to find out the complete thing. And if we say that we have a correct data with us, we should come up with the methodology and clear figures for that as well. If there is a disconnect, that will be clearly visible. There are like statisticians, there are like experts who can easily make out that whether the death being reported by the government is correct or where it is lesser than what it actually should be. So I think definitely there is a disconnect. Though I'm not that expert to calculate, give you the right figure, but somewhere obviously the death toll reported by government does not feel correct to me, because we were at the sites, we were at the during the time when we went to funeral, lakhs, thousands of deaths, hundreds of people were like cremated at a single time. And out of those people only, hardly anyone was coming from the hospital, rather people were coming from the home where
Yes.
that data was being reported. So
And you are a living example. Again, to be clear, Jaipur Golden Hospital, where your mother was admitted, actually went on record to say that there was a shortage of oxygen. Your mother was admitted for COVID, and the death certificate granted to you says cause of death natural. As a son today, how do you deal with the fact that your mother is not even counted today among India's COVID deaths?
so it's very disappointing. I cannot even explain in words, but it's disappointing whenever I connect with the other people also who died during that night, it's we feel like that in India we are not sensitive about these issues. So that's the first thing which comes to us, which comes to our mind. But what more we can do? We have our fight on. We are fighting for the justice. We want this to be reported. And needless to say, but the people, the government, everyone is so insensitive that in parliament also they are saying and commenting that not a single person died because of lack of oxygen, because they don't have the data. At one point they say they don't have the data, and other time they say that we the data we have is it's 100% correct. So again, that's contradictory statement from the government itself. So as a victim, I feel very disappointed that the kind of mess we went through, and after that also we are not learning. Maybe this data will be helpful for the future generation. Let's acknowledge, let's try to get the right facts for everyone together.
I'd like to point out that as a medical legal document, that death certificate is incorrect. You cannot write a cause of death as natural death. You have to actually write what the person died of. So it might be pneumonia, it might be septicemia, it might be something like that. It's not natural death. Now, it's possible that someone died of pneumonia and a diagnostic test nor clinical criteria for COVID-19 were applied. So you can't say COVID-19 pneumonia, but even that's a stretch considering that it happened in a hospital and the hospital said this was a case of COVID-19. So even if there was not an antigen test done or a molecular test done for COVID-19, clinically, the doctors, based on the information I have right now that you shared, said this was COVID-19. It may have been pneumonia. It may have been another COVID-19
I mean,
related cause.
we can ask Jagjyot that. Jagjyot, was an RT-PCR test done in hospital that confirmed that your mother had COVID, or did you take her for COVID-like symptoms? Jagjyot, if you just like to clarify that.
Yeah, obviously, our treatment started when we showed them the RT-PCR test report to the hospital. Then only they started the treatment related to the COVID to our mother.
Okay, I just
So
wanted
yeah,
to clarify that. Swapnil, go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, so this is a completely incorrectly filled death certificate. So yeah, this isn't right. Even if it wasn't COVID-19, this isn't right. And we're taught this in medical school that this is not how you are actually supposed to fill, a death certificate. So regardless of what the cause is, this is wrong. And this is actually just a great, and this is not the only place that this happens. This doesn't just happen in COVID-19. This is a very common occurrence. And actually this highlights how fragile our health data recording system is. That forget that we aren't classifying it as a COVID-19 death. We're not even following the correct procedures in filling out this death certificate. This happens all the time. And it has huge consequences at the national level because, our data is incorrect. But also for the individual, as we're seeing here, who does not have closure, who feels almost gaslit to a certain extent. And it can have consequences in terms of insurance claims. It can have consequences in terms of compensation. Barkha, but this brings us to an actual important thing. Why is it important to have an accurate count of the people who died? Is this an academic question for academicians, or is it a clinical question for health workers? Is it to count those who perished? Is it to recognize the pain of the families who were left heartbroken? Is it for insurance claims? Is it for compensation? Or is it to identify the inadequacies in our systems so that we can begin to improve them, make them more robust, so that we are better prepared for the next wave and the next pandemic? And there will certainly be a next pandemic.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.